Okay. All right, everybody, hang on. I want to capture this setup because I don't disturb you. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Everything Dogs YouTube channel. Just in case I didn't have enough going on, now we got Amy videoing me talking to you guys live. All right, so we are talking today about how, one, we've got to stop blaming dedicated, loving dog owners for their dog's aggressive reactive behavior because they didn't cause it. All right. And who am I to say that, right? Just my opinion. But we're going to talk about things over the next few days. So stick around because this is going to be a multiple thing. And I'm outside in Maine, so I got some flies eating my ankles. Okay. So today's topic is we must start to see our dogs barking, lunging, and growling as a symptom of an underlying issue or issues, okay? And I'm going to give you some examples. But in case you're new here, I'm Denise Mazzola. This is Geo. This is Minty. We are from Everything Dog, where we talk about aggression, reactivity, barking, lunging, growling, and what you guys can do about it. I've been a professional dog trainer for over 30 years. I've been an expert witness in several dog attack cases. We have this YouTube channel. We have our traveling channel if you want to see our personal shenanigans as we travel the country in our RV. That is Everything Dog Goes Everywhere. I have a live radio show that I've had over 20 years where you can literally call or email in. It is going to be on August 28th is the next one. It's generally the last Monday of every month. And if you watch on Instagram and or Facebook just before the end of the month, we post all the information so you can find it there. So let's dive into today's topic. We got to start seeing behavior, barking, lunging, growling as a symptom to an underlying issue or issues. What am I talking about? All right, I'm going to give you a couple of people examples, and then I'm going to give you a couple of dog examples. And tomorrow we're going to talk a little more specifically about what could be causing these underlying issues that's causing the barking, lunging, and growling specifically, right? The aggressive behavior, the reactive behavior. Okay, so one quick example, which I give on which I talk about a lot, is when my three daughters were past due to, hold on, can't see anything when I don't have my glasses on. Okay, Instagram is reconnecting. I don't know why it says poor connection, because we got a good Starlink going on. Okay, so years ago when my three daughters were school age, we would go out to dinner. And while we were going out to dinner, you know, Thursday or Friday night, they would be nitpicking and poking each other and crying and yelling, and it was really unpleasant. And I used to think to myself, why am I doing this, right? And then again, this is like, we're talking like 25, 30 years ago, okay, when my kids were little. And then we'd get to the restaurant, we'd order some appetizers, and all of a sudden it would be like the sun came out. They would be pleasant, talking to each other, sharing again. And I'm like, oh, they were hungry. And this was kind of before the word hangry was a thing, but they were hungry. So if I had punished them, threatened them, yelled at them to be nicer to each other, whatever it is I might have done, it would have fallen on issue to their crying and yelling and being nasty to each other was that they were hungry. Okay, so until I addressed their hunger, I couldn't address the behavior. Now, if I fed them and they still continued to be nasty, that's going to be a different story. Okay, so, and the other example is my daughter Rachel, when she was a young child, had all kinds of ear infection, one after another. We had multiple sets of tubes put in. We had adenoids and tonsils taken out, and I finally reached my proverbial last straw, and I went back to the doctor. I'm like, what's causing the ear infections? Like, I can hardly understand the child. Her speech is impaired because her hearing's impaired. Oh, well, why don't we allergy test her? Oh, so we allergy tested her, and she was very allergic to dust mites. And as soon as we took the dust mite eradication procedures in the bedroom in the house, guess what? Her ear infections went away and she could start to hear better. Okay, so the underlying issue in that case was an allergy to dust mites, which were causing the symptoms of ear infections, which led to hearing loss, which led to delayed speech. Okay? All right, so let's get to some dog examples. In the fall of 2024, we sold our 4-bedroom house where I had lived for 32 years, where this guy had lived for 9.5 years. And in that process, we folded up crates, we moved out furniture, we sold things, and very slowly the bedrooms upstairs started to empty out. My office was really no longer an office, or it was just a desk and lots of echoing, and then the couches went, and all the places that the dogs used to sleep. And during this process, Geo started to throw up fairly regularly, and I thought it was related to this rare disease situation that he has. So, and quite frankly, there was so much going on to get out of the house and into this RV that I didn't have really the bandwidth, brain-wise, to focus on what it was. We did take him to the vet, and he had lost some weight. We needed to put some weight back on. Okay, so fast forward a couple months, we've been traveling from New Hampshire down south and moving along, and I looked at Amy and I said, oh, you know what? He hasn't thrown up for months now. And I'm like, oh, so hindsight being what it was, he is throwing up. That behavior was a symptom of the stress that he was feeling about this moving and selling and the house changing and his patterns and routines changing. Because once we're settled here, it's been a non-issue, okay? So the last example I'm going to give you has to do with Minty, because we don't want to leave you out, pretty girl. Is that when we had the large house in New Hampshire, and if there was a lot of commotion, like so if one of my kids came home, if we had somebody ring the doorbell, and if this guy here, which he normally does, gets very excited about eating and feeding and while he dances around, he gets excited, she could just go put herself like way over there in the dining room, right? So we're over here in the kitchen doing something, and she could go way over there in the dining room. Okay, but in the lovely camper that we have that I fondly call our little shoebox, she doesn't have that opportunity to get out of his space when there's a lot of commotion. Okay, so that's one thing. So the situation was Amy was gone for 6 days while we were in South Carolina. She went back home to help her mom and dad. And I was with the dogs, and it was 80 degrees, and Minty loves to swim, being the 7% lab that you are, and the rest of it is a bulldog category. This guy hates to swim, but that's another story. So I took her swimming on a nice long leash and up and down the dock. Gio and I are walking on the dock, and she's swimming like a champ, no life preserver on. She was doing great. She loves swimming. So we get back to the camper. Again, she's got this low-level stress because Amy's gone. And it's like 9 o'clock at night, and she's in one end of the camper on our bed sleeping. And they've done this 100 times or more since we've been doing this, that Gio goes in the back to get on the bed with her, which he's done a lot. And she kind of snarks him. She goes, ruff, and just like, tells him to go away. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of interesting. So I take her off the bed, and she goes in her crate to go bedtime anyway. And as I thought about it the next day, and I've told this story a lot as well, it's like, so her snarking at him was a manifestation of over swimming her. She could have been tired, she could have been sore, she was hit by a car before we adopted her. We have had her fully x-rayed, and it shows like she has some what do I want to call it? Like her hips aren't dysplasia, doesn't have dysplasia yet, but she could in the future. Anyway, it hasn't happened since. And so it leads me to believe that she was in some sort of discomfort, uncomfortable. She might have had some pain going on. And the thought of this big guy jumping on our small bed back there and walking around and trying to find a place to lay down with her, she wasn't having it. So that behavior of snarking at him was a symptom of her, you're like sitting way back in the chair, was a symptom of her being tired or in some low-level pain that wasn't really showing itself in any other way. Like obviously if your dog is limping, they're in pain. But dogs can be in pain and and exhibit it in other ways that we're not even aware of. Okay, so today's topic, just to give a quick recap if you're just joining us, is that we need to, number one, stop blaming you guys, the owners who love your dogs, are dedicated to your dogs, have done everything that everybody's ever asked you to do, including socialization and more training, which we'll talk about on another one, to stop your dog's aggressive and reactive behavior, the barking, lunging, and growling. And we need to start seeing our dog's behavior, those things I just listed, as a symptom of some underlying issue or issues. And what could that be? Okay, so it could be pain, as I just described with her. It could be stress, which I described with him. It could be something physically wrong with your dog, like I described with my daughter. She had an allergy. I've talked to lots of people across the country whose dogs are on Apoquil and all sorts of other drugs to try to make them stop itching. But think about it, if you were itchy all the time, it would affect your behavior in some way. You might be yourself snarky. You might be less tolerant, less patient. So there could be health issues, there could be allergies, there could be pain, there could be the genetics. And the genetics has two components. The genetics of this guy's a Labrador, you would expect him to love to swim and you would expect him to retrieve everything. And he does neither of those things, right? So there's the genetics of what your dog was bred to do, and are they afforded the ability to express those genes? And then there's the genes of grandma, grandpa on both sides, mom and dad's genes, because I'm also going to talk about in the next couple of days these studies that show that traumatic, scary events can be passed down 2 generations. So the puppy that you buy or adopt or rescue, or the adult dog you adopt, buy, or rescue, could come to you predisposed to being fearful, worried, anxious, and or worried about specific situations, okay? So those are some of the things. So tomorrow we're going to do another live, and I'll put bug spray on that time so I'm not stamping my feet through the whole thing. And I'm going to start to talk about one of those specific things. So if we start to see behavior as a symptom of an underlying issue, some of those underlying issues could be genetics, pain, health, trauma, and breed genetics as well. And so tomorrow I'm going to pick one of those and we're going to dive into that a little bit deeper so you guys can start to see how this fits into your dog's life and patterns, and I also want you to start to understand why more training and more socialization is not the answer to stop the barking, lunging, and growling. And I know that everybody has said that to you. So the other thing I'm going to just tell you is that if you would like to be a part of our free webinar, then called How to Stop Your Dog's Aggressive Reactive Behavior Without More Socialization, Without More Obedience Training, and without spending hundreds of dollars on expensive boot camps. If you reply with the word CALM, C-A-L-M, I will email you the link so you can register for our next webinar. It's free, and there's a lot of great information in that webinar, and we get into all of these things a little bit deeper. All right, you guys, I gotta put my glasses on so I can see how to end these lives, but I will see you tomorrow. I wish I could tell you what time, but not sure. And these guys will see you tomorrow, where we're going to dive deeper into one of the potential underlying issues that is causing your dog's aggressive reactive behavior. So I will see you guys tomorrow.